It is nearly impossible to define the fairy tale as a literary genre because it has become more of a cultural institution than anything else. Not only are there thousands of literary fairy tales produced for children and adults each year throughout the world, but there are also fairy tale films, plays, ballets, operas, tapes, records, calendars, illustrations, and advertisements. Furthermore, hundreds of thousands of folk tales continue to be told and come and go as easily as the wind whisks leaves into the air, lets them flutter, and eventually disperses them on the ground until they settle and die. But the best of our tales do not die. Tales are marks that leave traces of the human struggle for immortality. Tales are human marks, invested with desire. They are formed like musical compositions, except that the letters constitute words and are chosen individually to enunciate the speaker-writer's position in the world, including his or her dreams, needs, wishes, and experience. The speaker-writer posits the self against language to establish identity and to test the self with and against language, and each word marks a way toward a future different from what may have already been decreed, certainly different from what is being experienced in the present. The words that are being selected in the process of creating the tale allow the speaker-writer freedom to play with options that no one has ever glimpsed. The marks are magical. The fairy tale celebrates the marks as magical. Letters, words, sentences, signs. More than any other literary genre, the fairy tale has persisted in emphasizing transformation of the marks with spells, enchantments, disenchantments, resurrections, recreations. During its inception, the fairy tale distinguished itself as genre both by appropriating the oral folk tale and expanding it, for it gradually became necessary in the modern world to adapt the oral tale to standards of literacy and make it acceptable for diffusion in the public sphere. The fairy tale is only one type of appropriation of a particular oral storytelling tradition, the wonder folk tale, often called the Zaubermärchen or the magic tale. As more and more wonder tales were written down in the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries, they constituted the genre of the literary fairy tale that began establishing its own conventions, motifs, topoi, characters, and plots based to a large extent on those developed in the oral tradition, but altered to address a reading public formed by the aristocracy and the middle class. Though the peasants were excluded in the formation of this literary tradition, it was their material, tone, style, and beliefs that were incorporated into the new genre in the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries. Rarely do wonder tales end unhappily. They triumph over death. The tale begins once upon a time ago, or once there was, and never really ends when it ends. The ending is actually the true beginning. The once upon a time is not a past destination, but futuristic. The timelessness of the tale and lack of geographical specificity endow it with utopian connotations. Utopia in its original meaning designated no place, a place that no one had ever envisaged. We form and keep the utopian kernel of the tale safe in our imaginations with hope. The significance of the function of the wonder tale is that they facilitate recall. They enable us to store, remember, and reproduce the utopian spirit of the tale and to change it to fit our experiences and desires due to the easily identifiable characters who are associated with particular assignments and settings. For instance, we have the simpleton who turns out to be remarkably cunning, the third and youngest son who is oppressed by his brothers and or father, the beautiful but maltreated youngest daughter, the discharged soldier who has been exploited, the shrew who needs taming, the evil witch, the kind elves, the cannibalistic ogre, the clumsy stupid giant, terrifying beasts like dragons, lions, wild boars, kind animals like ants, birds, deer, bees, duck, fish, the clever tailor, the evil and jealous stepmother, the clever peasant, the power-hungry and unjust king, treacherous nixies, the beast bridegroom, mysterious huts in forests, glass mountains, dark, dangerous caves. There are 7-league boots that enable the protagonist to move faster than jet planes, capes that make a person invisible, magic wands that can perform extraordinary feats of transformation, animals that produce gold, tables that provide all the delicious and sumptuous food you can eat. musical instruments with enormous captivating powers, swords and clubs capable of conquering anyone or anything, lakes, ponds, and seas that are difficult to cross and serve as the home for supernatural creatures. The creatures, settings, and motifs are combined and varied according to specific functions to induce wonder. It is this sense of wonder that distinguishes the wonder tales from other oral tales, the legend, the fable, the anecdote, and the myth. It is clearly the sense of wonder that distinguishes the literary fairy tale from the moral story, novella, sentimental tale, and other modern short literary genres. According to the Oxford Universal Dictionary, a wonder is something that causes astonishment, which can be a marvelous object, a marvel, prodigy, a marvelous character or quality. A wonder is often regarded as a supernatural occurrence and can be an omen or portent. It gives rise to admiration, fear, awe, and reverence. Or, as the OUD states, wonder is the emotion excited by the perception of something novel and unexpected or inexplicable, astonishment mingled with perplexity or bewildered curiosity. In the oral wonder tale, we are to wonder about the workings of the universe where anything can happen at any time, and these happy or fortuitous events are never to be explained, nor do the characters demand an explanation. They are opportunistic. They are encouraged to be so, and if they do not take advantage of the opportunity that will benefit them in their relations with others, they are either dumb or mean-spirited. The tales seek to awaken our regard for the miraculous condition of life and to evoke, in a religious sense, profound feelings of awe and respect for life as a miraculous process which can be altered and changed to compensate for the lack of power, wealth, and pleasure that most people experience. Lack, deprivation, prohibition, and interdiction motivate people to look for signs of fulfillment and emancipation. In the wonder tales, those who are naive and simple are able to succeed because they are untainted and can recognize the wondrous signs. They have retained their belief in the miraculous condition of nature, revere nature in all its aspects. They have not been spoiled by conventionalism, power, or rationalism. In contrast to the humble characters, the villains are those who use words to exploit, control, transfix, incarcerate, and destroy for their benefit. They have no respect or consideration for nature and other human beings, and they actually seek to abuse magic by preventing change and causing everything to be transfixed according to their interests. Enchantment equals petrification. Breaking the spell equals emancipation. The wondrous protagonist wants to keep the process of natural change flowing and indicates possibilities for overcoming the obstacles that prevent other characters or creatures from living in a peaceful and pleasurable way. The focus on wonder in the oral folk tale does not mean that all wonder tales, and later the literary fairy tales, served and serve an emancipatory purpose. August Nietzsche has convincingly demonstrated in Soziale Ordnung in Spiegel der Marken that the nature of oral folk tales depended on what stage of development a tribe, community, or society was going through. Therefore, the oral tales could serve to stabilize, conserve, or challenge the common beliefs, laws, values, and norms of a group. The ideology expressed in wonder tales was derived from the position the narrator assumed with regard to the developments in his or her community, and the narrative plot and changes depended on the sense of wonder or awe that the narrator wanted to evoke. In other words, the sense of wonder in the tale and the intended emotion sought by the narrator is ideological. Since these wonder tales have been with us for thousands of years and have undergone so many different changes in the oral tradition, it is difficult to determine the ideological intention of the narrator, and even when we disregard the narrator's intention, it is often difficult to reconstruct and or deconstruct the ideological meaning of a tale. In the last analysis, however, even if we cannot establish whether a wonder tale is ideologically conservative, sexist, progressive, emancipatory, etc., they all celebrate wonder, and this celebration accounts for the major appeal of the wonder tales. no matter what the plot may be. The tales all celebrate our capacity as readers and potential transmitters of tales to wonder. We do not want to know the ultimate resolution. We do not want to name God, gods, goddesses. We do not want to form graven images. We do not want to have utopia designated for us. We want to remain curious, startled, provoked, mystified, and uplifted. We want to glare, gaze, gawk, behold, and stare. We want to be given opportunities to change, and ultimately we want to be told that we can become kings and queens, or lords of our own destinies. We remember wonder tales and fairy tales to keep our sense of wonderment alive, and to nurture our hope that we can seize possibilities and opportunities to transform ourselves and our world. The definition of both the wonder tale and the fairy tale, then, depends on the manner in which a narrator, author, arranges known functions of a tale, aesthetically and ideologically, to induce wonder, and then transmits the tale as a whole according to the customary usage of society in a given historical period. Consequently, the endeavor to grasp the manner in which the wonder tale and the fairy tale define themselves and are defined can help us understand our social attitudes and values.